Edgar, you are familiar with Letterboxd.
I am. I use it very frequently. Not publicly, though.
You have your list of 1,000 favorite movies. If you were teaching a Directing Action 101 film class,
Oh, yeah.
which of those films would you put on the syllabus?
A masterclass in action. Okay, so... Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, I love Steven Spielberg. The direction and shot composition, everything about that, the editing, it's like a little masterclass. I think that is like a perfect movie. I'm old enough to have seen it at the cinema at the time, so I was like 7 when that came out. At that point, I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a director, but it was probably the film that made me understand who a director was. You know, they promoted it as like, you know, the producer of Star Wars and the director of Close Encounters together, and Han Solo's in this period movie. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, though, is like so perfectly made, and everything about it, the staging, the shot composition, the blocking. Like, Spielberg is just a master of blocking. So I'd say if you wanted to learn how to shoot action, that's a good film to watch. I would also say to people who want to learn how to direct, watch a great movie with the sound turned off. Watch a great movie with the sound turned off and watch how the visual storytelling works. And Raiders is a great example, number one. Die Hard, John McTiernan's film, perfectly staged, perfectly sort of modulated, just has exactly the right amount of action, doesn't go over the top. As soon as they get into the sequels, they start going too far. Die Hard is just like pitch perfect. Brilliantly shot by Jan de Bont. One of the sort of Hollywood films of that period where there's like a European influence in his cinematography coming through. Die Hard, I think, is one of those movies which really starts to kind of set the template for what action movies are going to look like for the next 40 years.
I had asked Glen Powell about one of his favorite stunt sequences, and he mentioned when McClane is in bare feet and how you had used that as kind of a reference for the towel scene in The Running Man.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about a lot in this movie is you know, Ben Richards is not a superhero and he's not like a trained killer. You know, he's an out-of-work dad, he has a sick daughter, he's trying to provide for his family, and he walks in off the street to join one of the games in the network building. But because of that, then hopefully it makes it more exciting because you have a hero that doesn't have all the answers, that doesn't necessarily always have a strategy, who's kind of on his heels the entire time. Indiana Jones and John McClane in the first films, in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Die Hard, one is a cop and one is a adventuring archaeologist, but they're not perfect. And one of the joys of both of those movies and what makes them exciting is frequently those characters are out of their depth, and that you as an audience think, how the hell are they going to get out of this? And that's a very different feeling to, I'd say, a lot of James Bond films where you're enjoying a James Bond film, but you don't ever really think that he's going to die. That was important to us, and I think that was something we talked about. And John McClane in his bare feet was a good example of, like, John McClane is vulnerable, physically vulnerable for a lot of the movie. Possibly the greatest action movie of all time, John Woo's Hard Boiled, may never be topped, possibly because that movie looks borderline unsafe. Like, the amount of squibs going off in that movie and the amount of explosions going off, like, right by actors is kind of insane. There's a single take action sequence in there where it goes from one floor and Chow Yun-fat and Tony Leung go into an elevator and they have a conversation whilst they're in the elevator. The art department are furiously redressing the stage. It took me several watches to realize, of course, it's not a real elevator. They just went into another set and then they redressed the set outside to look like a different floor. A genius shot. An absolute genius shot. Maybe when people think of me, they think of like sort of crash zooms and whip pans and like fast edits, but even in Shaun of the Dead, like probably the most famous shot in that movie is 3 minutes long. So I guess it's kind of like a quick, slow approach. The longer shots make the quick shots have more impact. I think with action as well, like if you can kind of sustain something, it just makes it feel like it's more real. That's a good example, is the shot where Glenn runs away from the rover cam down the corridor, then he's getting shot at by a hunter, then he's like has to slide into the elevator, then he grabs the camera and smashes it. Those shots are really exciting to conceive and rehearse. Also think about, how are we going to shoot this? Our grip actually like ran along with a special rig, like, you know, he had to run as fast as Glenn. Making an action movie is very arduous. It's a lot of moving parts. They take a lot of time to set up. When you have a shot that all works in one, it's exciting. All of the crew stand around the monitor and everybody can see a take back and says, yes, we've got it. Okay, that works. This isn't strictly an action film, but it is hyperkinetic. I love the Tom Twyker film Run, Lola Run. I saw that. I was probably like 24 when that came out, and it was one of those films that made me both excited and envious at the same time. It was one of those movies where I kind of rushed out of the cinema. I was like, I've got to make a movie right now. Still great. I went to see it again at the cinema and it still like rocks.
I'm really interested in how music affects the choreography of the action, because you put the music in post. It's not there on set. But could you talk about unless...
We did play those in on set. Like, when Glenn is walking in the opening credits to Sly and the Family Stone, he's listening to it. We definitely edited to it on set, because that was the song we wanted to use. So it wasn't like something we came up with in the edit. And I have to give credit to Michael Bacall, because a couple of the sort of the needle drops in the film are all his, like Underdog and Heartbreaker by the Rolling Stones. Like he suggested both of those. Jackie Chan's Police Story, another superlative action film, incredible martial arts film, and made with a real fury. I think Jackie Chan had a few sort of aborted attempts to break into Hollywood and was always feeling that he'd been compromised in the Western films that he'd done at that point. So he goes back to Hong Kong, and Police Story has that feeling of like, this'll show him. And so it kind of like he comes up with the ultimate Jackie Chan film of just like, let's put everything in the kitchen sink into this one film. The climax in the shopping mall is extraordinary. That's an incredible film. One of the things about our adaptation, like the book, is that you're seeing it all from Ben Richards' point of view. You're experiencing the game with him, and as such, Glenn is very much the center of it. And so Glenn wanted to do his own stunts. We wanted to do as much as possible. Not to say that there aren't amazing stunt performances, because there are. It was really great designing those sequences and also designing things around stunts that Glenn could perform. The second unit director was Darren Prescott, who worked on Baby Driver with me. He had worked with Nikki Berwick before, who was our stunt coordinator, and so he actually recommended her. She had an amazing team. For fans of Texas Switchers, there's at least 3 really good ones in this movie that I'm very proud of, and if you don't spot them the first time, please go and see it again. Let's give it up for Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. Still like stands up as like not just a great action film, but a great satirical film as well. Like, great script, perfect tone, like savage. The action is excellent, the effects are excellent, still looks good today. Peter Weller's performance in the suit is extraordinary. Like, everything about that film just rocks.
You must watch a lot of directors' commentaries and special features. Is there one that you want to recommend to people in particular?
Well, you know what? When I was making Shaun of the Dead, Robert Rodriguez used to do really great director's commentaries. And because Robert Rodriguez prides himself on coming from an independent background and figuring out ways to make Hollywood films for less. El Mariachi, great DVD commentary. But the DVD commentary for Desperado was really, really interesting, because that was his first Hollywood film. Robert is making a studio movie, but with the brain of an independent filmmaker. And so all of his kind of interesting solutions of how to get round the conventions of Hollywood filmmaking is really fascinating. I wanted to watch what he had to say about making that film. It was like a little film score on a DVD commentary.
I bet Letterboxd is very much looking forward to the Running Man director's
We actually
commentary.
recorded it yesterday, and it was Glen Powell's first commentary. Me and Glen Powell and Michael Bacall did it together. It was really fun to do. Although we did find ourselves at several points saying, this was the toughest day of the shoot. This was the coldest day. And then we found by the end we'd said that about 10 times. Oh no, wait, this was the coldest night shoot. One of the things on my secret Letterboxd account, I usually just use it to log what I've seen. Make my own lists of things I need to see, and then like look at other people's lists. But what I have started to do is make like a master list of like films that I have in the house. First it was a list of things that I hadn't watched, and then it became a list of everything I have. Because then it's that thing where you start to kind of say, what's the best film I have in the house? What's the highest rated Letterboxd film that I have in the house? But of course, as soon as you start doing that, then you start to think, wait, but what's the worst film I have in the house? I don't know why, but I keep kind of like looking at the bottom of the list as well. I'm kind of really curious as to what is the worst film that I own according to Letterboxd users. For some reason, a lot of the Friday the 13th sequels have really low ratings. Friday the 13th 5, which isn't the worst film of all time. I did watch that the other day, and the reason I watched it was because it was like curiously right at the bottom of the list, and I'd seen it before. I don't know why. I was like, maybe it's because it's October.
Are you defending it?
No. I wouldn't say it's a good film, but I would say it's entertaining.